I lay perfectly still in our bed, my breathing slow and measured, every muscle relaxed in the practiced stillness of sleep. The silk sheets pooled around my waist, cool against my skin in the darkness of our bedroom. Nathaniel thought I was unconscious. He believed the small white pill he'd watched me swallow an hour ago had pulled me under the way it had every night for the past 3 months. He was wrong. The pill sat in the small decorative box on my nightstand tucked behind the antique clock my father had given me. I'd learned to palm it with the ease of a magician, tuck it under my tongue, wait for Nathaniel to turn away before spitting it into my hand. 3 months of this deception. 3 months of lying awake in the dark, listening to my husband's secrets unfold in whispered phone calls he thought I'd never hear. His phone vibrated on the nightstand. The sound was muffled, set to silent mode, but I felt the slight shift in the mattress as he reached for it. Felt the careful way he lifted the covers, the deliberate quiet of a man who didn't want to wake his sleeping wife. The bedroom door opened with the softest click. His footsteps moved down the hallway toward his study, each step measured and cautious. I counted to 30 in my head, slipped from the bed without a sound. My bare feet made no noise on the hardwood floors as I moved through the darkness of our penthouse. The hallway bathroom sat adjacent to his study, sharing a wall. I'd discovered this acoustic quirk 2 months ago, positioned myself there night after night, listening to conversations that slowly dismantled everything I thought I knew about my marriage. The bathroom door was already cracked open from earlier. I'd left it that way on purpose, one less sound to risk. I stood in the darkness, my back against the cool tile wall, and I listened. Nathaniel's voice carried through clearly. "It's been 4 years, Thad. 4 years of this. 4 years of lying to her every single day." I pressed my palm flat against the wall. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, but I kept my breathing steady, silent. 4 years of pretending to be someone I'm not," he continued, his voice strained with a weight I'd never heard before. "Playing the devoted husband when the entire foundation of our marriage is built on deception, when everything about us is a lie. Thad, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep living like this." Thaddeus Morrison's voice came through tinny on speakerphone, Nathaniel's best friend, his consigliere, the man who'd stood beside him at our wedding 5 years ago with a smile that never quite reached his eyes. "You don't have a choice. You made a commitment. You gave your word. You agreed to this, and backing out now after 4 years creates problems we can't solve, problems that affect more than just you." "I know." Nathaniel's voice cracked. "I know what I agreed to. I know what the consequences are. But Thad, I'm in love with her. I fell in love with her, and that was never supposed to happen. That was never part of the plan." My stomach dropped. The floor beneath my feet seemed to shift, reality tilting on an axis I couldn't control. I grabbed the doorframe to keep myself upright. "I was supposed to marry her," Nathaniel said. "Monitor her, keep her close, keep her controlled, keep her from discovering what her father did. But I wasn't supposed to actually love her. And now I do. And I don't know how to reconcile that with what I'm doing, with the lie I'm living, with the fact that every moment we spend together is based on deception." The bathroom felt too small, suddenly the air too thin. I couldn't breathe properly, but I couldn't move either, frozen in place by words that were destroying everything I thought was real. "What her father did," Nathaniel said, and I could hear him pacing now, his footsteps moving back and forth across his study floor. "Harrison Beaumont stole from us, from the Blackwood family. He used his import business as a front to move our shipments, and he skimmed. He stole $8 million over the course of 10 years. And by the time we figured it out, by the time we traced the missing money back to him, he was dead." My father. Harrison Beaumont, who died of a heart attack 2 years before I met Nathaniel. My father, who was a respected businessman who owned legitimate import-export companies, who left me a substantial inheritance, who I loved and mourned and missed every single day. "And the money was gone," Nathaniel continued. "We couldn't find it, couldn't trace where it went, couldn't recover what he took, and my father said we needed to get it back, needed to find out where Harrison hid it, needed someone on the inside who could search, who could monitor, who could get close to the daughter because we suspected Harrison told her something, left her some kind of information, some kind of access to the accounts where he hid our money. So you married me." The thought formed clear and cold in my mind. You married me to find money my father allegedly stole. You married me as an investigation, as surveillance, as a way to get close enough to search my life for evidence of crimes I knew nothing about. I married you, Nathaniel said into the phone, and the confirmation of my thoughts made my chest constrict. I married you because my father ordered me to, because Maxwell Blackwood doesn't accept failure, doesn't accept losing $8 million, doesn't accept that some civilian businessman outsmarted us. And he said, marry the daughter, get close to her, search her life, find the money, recover what was taken. And you did, Thad said. You followed orders, you courted her, you made her fall in love with you, you proposed, you married her, and you've spent 4 years searching. And I've found nothing. The defeat in Nathaniel's voice was raw. Nothing, Thad. No hidden accounts, no offshore money, no evidence that Evangeline knows anything about what her father did, and I'm starting to think maybe she really doesn't know. Maybe Harrison never told her. Maybe he took the location of that money to his grave. And Evangeline is exactly what she appears to be, an innocent woman who has no idea her father was a thief. I pressed my forehead against the cool tile wall. Innocent. He called me innocent, as if that absolved him of 4 years of deception. Then you have a problem, Thad said, his voice harder now, because Maxwell isn't going to accept that answer. He doesn't believe in coincidences. Doesn't believe that Evangeline knows nothing. He thinks she's playing you, thinks she's smarter than she looks, thinks the innocent act is a performance, and eventually she'll lead you to the money. So he's going to want you to keep looking, keep monitoring, keep the marriage going until you find what you're looking for. But what if there's nothing to find? Nathaniel's voice rose slightly. What if Evangeline really is innocent? What if I've spent 4 years lying to a woman who's done nothing wrong, who's a victim of her father's crimes just like we are? What if I'm destroying an innocent person for money that might not even exist anymore? I wanted to scream, wanted to burst through that door and confront him with everything I'd heard. But I stayed frozen silent because I needed to hear more, needed to understand the full scope of what my marriage really was. Then you made a mistake, Thad said. You made a mistake falling in love with her. You made a mistake letting emotions interfere with your assignment. You made a mistake thinking this was ever going to end any way other than badly. And now you need to decide. You need to choose. You need to figure out whether you're Nathaniel Blackwood, son of Maxwell Blackwood, loyal to the family, or whether you're Nate, the husband who loves Evangeline and wants out, because you can't be both. Those two identities can't coexist, and the longer you try to be both, the worse this is going to get. I don't know how to choose. Nathaniel's voice broke completely. Because choosing the family means losing Evangeline, means continuing to lie to her, means using her until we find the money, or until my father decides she's not useful anymore. And I can't, Thad. I can't do that to her. I love her too much. Something inside my chest cracked open at those words. He loved me. Despite everything, despite the lies and the manipulation and the deception, some part of what we had was real to him. But choosing Evangeline means betraying my father, Nathaniel continued, means walking away from the family, means consequences I can't even imagine, means possibly putting Evangeline in danger. Because if I leave, if I tell her the truth, my father might decide she's a liability, might decide that if he can't get the money through me, he'll get it another way. The threat hung in the air like poison. Maxwell Blackwood didn't accept failure, didn't accept betrayal. And if Nathaniel chose me over the family, his father might come after me directly. You're right to be afraid, Thad said, because Maxwell doesn't accept betrayal. And choosing Evangeline over the family, that is betrayal. That's choosing an outsider over blood. That's something Maxwell will never forgive. So you need to think very carefully about what you're considering, about what it would cost, about whether Evangeline is worth what you would lose, what you would risk, what might happen if Maxwell decides you're no longer reliable. She's worth everything, Nathaniel said immediately, but I don't know how to protect her, don't know how to get us both out of this safely, don't know how to tell her the truth without destroying her, without making her hate me, without losing everything we've built, even though it was built on lies, I backed away from the bathroom slowly, my legs unsteady beneath me, moved through the darkness back to our bedroom, slipped under the covers, arranged my body in the exact position of sleep, and I lay there processing everything I'd heard, everything I'd learned, everything that had just shattered my understanding of my own life. My marriage was a setup. My husband was ordered to marry me. Everything I thought was real was a carefully constructed investigation. And I felt something inside me that had been soft become hard, something that had been trusting become calculating, something that had been loving become strategic, because I understood now. I was not safe. I was married to a man who loved me but was still lying to me, still using me, still searching for money I didn't have, money I knew nothing about, money that my father apparently stole and hid and never told me about. I heard Nathaniel end the call, heard his footsteps in the hallway, felt the mattress shift as he climbed back into bed beside me. His arm came around my waist, pulling me against him the way he did every night. His lips pressed against my shoulder in a gentle kiss. "I love you," he whispered against my skin, thinking I couldn't hear. I kept my breathing even, kept my eyes closed, kept my body relaxed even though every muscle wanted to tense, wanted to pull away, wanted to confront him with everything I knew. But I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't give any indication that I'd heard his confession, because I was already planning, already strategizing, already figuring out what I needed to do next. The next morning I woke before Nathaniel, made coffee the way I did every morning, stood at the windows of our penthouse overlooking Manhattan, and watched the sun rise over the city while my mind raced through possibilities. 4 years of marriage. 4 years of what I thought was love and partnership and building a life together. All of it based on a lie. All of it built on deception and surveillance and a mission to recover money I didn't even know existed. Nathaniel emerged from the bedroom in his suit, already dressed for whatever business Maxwell Blackwood had planned for the day. He came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist, kissed my neck. "Good morning, beautiful." I leaned back into him, played my role perfectly. "Good morning." "Sleep well." The pills sat in the decorative box on my nightstand. "Like always." He squeezed me tighter. "I have meetings all day. Dinner at 8. I'll make reservations." He turned me around, cupped my face in his hands, kissed me with what felt like genuine tenderness. "I love you, Evangeline." "I love you too." The words came easily, practiced over 4 years. They weren't even entirely a lie. Some part of me still loved the man I thought he was, but I was learning quickly to separate that illusion from the reality standing in front of me. After he left, I stood in our penthouse for a long moment. Then I pulled out my phone and called the only person I could trust. "Cass, it's me. I need to see you. Today. It's important." Cassandra Whitmore met me at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, far from any place Nathaniel might see us. She slid into the booth across from me, her sharp eyes already scanning my face. "What's wrong? You look like you haven't slept in days." "I haven't." I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup. "Not really. Not for 3 months." "3 months, Ava, what's going on?" I took a breath. "I need to tell you something. And I need you to listen without judgment, without interruption, until I'm finished. Can you do that?" Cassandra leaned back, concern etched across her features. "Of course." So I told her. Everything. The sleeping pills I hadn't been taking, the conversations I'd been overhearing, the confession Nathaniel made to Thad about our marriage being an assignment, about my father allegedly stealing $8 million from the Blackwood family, about Maxwell ordering Nathaniel to marry me, monitor me, search for the money. When I finished, Cassandra sat in silence for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and gripped my hand hard. "Ava, you're in danger, real danger. You know that, right?" "I know. The Blackwood family doesn't just commit crimes. They eliminate anyone who threatens them, anyone who knows too much, anyone who can't be controlled." Her voice dropped lower. "I spent 2 years building a case against them when I worked for the district attorney's office. Do you know why that case fell apart? Because 3 witnesses disappeared, just vanished, and 2 others recanted their testimony after their families were threatened. Cold dread settled in my stomach. You never told me you investigated them. Because I got out before they could come after me. Changed careers. Moved to asset protection law specifically so I'd never have to deal with them again. She squeezed my hand tighter. And now you're married to the underboss. Living with him. Sleeping beside him every night. Eva, if they think you have that money, if they think you're hiding it, you are not safe. I don't have it. I don't even know if it exists. It doesn't matter what's true. It matters what Maxwell Blackwood believes. Cassandra pulled out her phone. We need to find out if your father really took that money. Because if he did, we need to find it before they do. It's the only leverage you have. The only thing that might keep you alive if this goes bad. That afternoon I went home and started searching. Really searching. Not the casual looking through old boxes I'd done when my father died. Not the sentimental keeping of mementos. This was methodical, professional, looking at his business records not as memories but as potential evidence. I pulled boxes from storage, spread financial documents across the floor of the guest bedroom I'd converted into a home office, read through contracts and correspondence and transaction records with fresh eyes, and slowly, gradually I started seeing patterns. Shipments valued strangely, payments that didn't match invoices. A shadow business running parallel to the legitimate import-export work. My father had been careful, meticulous even, but once I knew what to look for, the evidence was there. He had been stealing from the Blackwood family. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My father, Harrison Beaumont, the man who taught me about integrity and treating people with respect, had been a thief, had been involved with organized crime, had been living a double life. I sat on the floor of that office surrounded by proof of his crimes, and I felt something fundamental shift in my understanding of who he was, who I was, what my life had been built on. But I couldn't afford to grieve that loss yet. Couldn't afford to process the betrayal of discovering my father wasn't who I thought he was. I needed to focus on survival, needed to understand what I was dealing with, needed to figure out if the $8 million was real and if it was where it might be. I spent 3 days going through every box, every file, every piece of paper my father had left behind. On the 4th day I found it, a small USB drive taped to the back of a family photograph. The picture showed my mother and father on their wedding day, both young and happy and beautiful. I'd kept it in a frame on my father's old desk, a memorial to a marriage cut short by my mother's death when I was 12. The USB had been there all along, hidden in plain sight. My hands shook as I plugged it into my laptop. A single folder appeared password protected. I stared at it for a long moment, then typed in what felt like the most obvious choice, my mother's maiden name, plus my parents' wedding year. The folder opened. Inside were spreadsheets. Dozens of them. Meticulously organized, color-coded, annotated. 10 years of transactions. Dates, amounts, account numbers. All of it proving exactly what Nathaniel had said. My father had been skimming money from Blackwood shipments. Small amounts at first, then larger. Over 10 years it added up to exactly $8 million. But there was also a video file. I clicked it open and my father's face filled the screen. He looked older than I remembered, tired, the lines around his eyes deeper. This had been recorded shortly before he died. His voice, familiar and missed, came through the speakers. Evangeline, my darling girl, if you're watching this, then I'm gone, and you've found what I hoped you would never need to find. I'm sorry. I'm so very sorry that I've left you with this burden. Tears burned my eyes. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. I need you to know the truth, my father continued. I need you to understand why I did what I did. I stole from the Blackwood family because they are evil, because they hurt people, because they traffic in suffering, because I couldn't be part of their operations, couldn't facilitate their crimes, couldn't use my business to help them move drugs and weapons without doing something to undermine them, without taking something back, without making them pay in some small way for the damage they do to the world. He paused, his expression pained. So I skimmed. I took a little here and a little there. Amounts small enough they wouldn't notice immediately. And I did it for years. And I told myself I was doing something right, taking blood money and converting it into something that could give you a better life, a life away from all of this. My father leaned closer to the camera. The account information is encoded in the spreadsheets. The password is your mother's maiden name plus our anniversary. Use it wisely. Use it carefully. And Evangeline, if the Blackwood family ever comes looking, if they ever connect you to what I did, if they ever figure out you have access to this money run, do not hesitate. Do not try to negotiate. Do not trust anyone. Just take the money and disappear. He paused again, and when he spoke next, his voice was thick with emotion. If you're watching this and you're married, if you've built a life with someone, be very careful. Be very suspicious, because the Blackwood family is patient. They're strategic. They're willing to wait years to recover what they lost. And Evangeline, if someone came into your life after I died, if someone pursued you, if someone made you fall in love with them, ask yourself why. Ask yourself if it might be about this money. Ask yourself if you're being used. The video ended. I sat staring at the blank screen, my father's warning echoing in my mind. He'd seen this coming, had anticipated that the Blackwood family might use me, might marry me to someone, might try to recover their money through me. And he'd tried to warn me, tried to protect me even from beyond the grave. I closed the laptop, sat in silence for a long moment. Then I pulled out my phone and called Cassandra again. I found it, the money, all of it. And Cass, my father, left me a message. He knew this might happen. Where are you? Home, but Nate's at a meeting until 6. I'm coming over. Don't touch anything else until I get there. Cassandra arrived 30 minutes later. I showed her the USB, the spreadsheets, my father's video. She watched it all in silence, her expression growing more grim with each passing minute. When it finished, she looked at me with something like fear in her eyes. Ava, this is $8 million spread across 20 different accounts in 10 different states. Your father was brilliant. This would take forensic accountants months to trace, and that's if they knew where to start looking. Can we move it? We can, but it's risky. If anyone's monitoring these accounts, if the Blackwood family has been watching them moving, the money will trigger alerts. Then we need to be smarter than them. I pulled up the spreadsheets. We move it in small amounts, different destinations, create enough noise that no one can track where it's really going. Cassandra studied me for a long moment. You've changed. 3 months ago, you would never have suggested something like this. 3 months ago, I thought my marriage was real. I met her eyes. Now I know I'm a target, an asset to be used. And the moment I stop being useful, I become a liability. So I need to protect myself, and the only way to do that is to be smarter than the people trying to use me. She nodded slowly. Then let's get to work. Over the next 2 weeks, Cassandra and I moved $8 million across the American financial system with the precision of surgeons and the paranoia of fugitives. We worked only when Nathaniel was out, only on encrypted laptops purchased with cash, only in coffee shops and libraries far from our usual haunts. Small transfers, never more than $50,000 at a time, routed through business accounts Cassandra created under shell companies registered in Delaware and Nevada. The money flowed like water through channels my father had built then into new streams we carved ourselves. By the end of the first week, half the original accounts were empty. By the end of the second, the money existed only in places the Blackwood family would never think to look. And through it all, I played the role of devoted wife. Made dinner for Nathaniel, laughed at his jokes, let him hold me at night while I pretended to sleep my mind calculating the next transfer, the next move, the next step in a game he didn't even know we were playing. But the performance was becoming harder. Not because I couldn't maintain the facade, but because every time he touched me, every time he kissed me, every time he whispered that he loved me, I felt the war between what I knew and what I still felt. Some traitorous part of my heart still responded to him, still wanted the life we'd built to be real, still hoped that somehow the love he claimed to feel was genuine despite the foundation of lies. That hope felt like weakness, like something I needed to cut out of myself before it got me killed. 3 weeks after finding the USB, I was transferring the last $100,000 when Nathaniel came home early. I heard his key in the lock, slammed the laptop shut, shoved it into my bag. By the time he walked into the kitchen, I was at the stove stirring pasta sauce, my heart hammering, but my expression calm. He came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist the way he always did, and I forced myself to lean back into his embrace. "You're home early." "Finished meetings ahead of schedule." His lips brushed my neck. "Thought I'd surprise you." "Well, you succeeded." I turned in his arms, smiled up at him. "Hungry." "Starving." But he wasn't looking at my face. His eyes scanned the kitchen, the counter, the small messenger bag I'd dropped by the door. Something flickered across his expression, too quick to read. My stomach clenched. Had he seen something, noticed something out of place? But then he smiled, kissed my forehead, and the moment passed. "Let me change. I'll be right back." I watched him disappear down the hallway, every instinct screaming that something had shifted, that he was starting to suspect, that my performance wasn't quite as perfect as I thought. I pulled out my phone, texted Cassandra, "Need to accelerate timeline. How fast can we move the rest?" Her response came back in seconds. 2 days if we push it. Why? Just a feeling. Let's finish this. That night, Nathaniel was different, more attentive than usual, asked more questions about my day, my plans, what I'd been doing while he was at meetings. Each question felt like a test, like he was searching for cracks in my story. I answered smoothly, easily, with the kind of mundane details that made lies believable. Ran errands, had lunch with a college friend, worked on organizing my father's old files, something I'd been putting off for years. Still going through Harrison's things. He said it casually, but his body had tensed slightly against mine. It's therapeutic, helps me feel close to him. I traced patterns on his chest with my finger, kept my voice light. Found some old business contracts today, import agreements from the 90s. It's strange seeing his signature on documents from before I was born. What kind of contracts? Shipping manifests mostly, boring corporate stuff. The lie came easily. I'm thinking of donating most of it. No point keeping boxes of paperwork nobody needs. His arm tightened around me. Maybe I should look through it first. Sometimes old business documents have historical value. You want to read through boxes of shipping manifests from 30 years ago. I want to help you. Make sure you're not throwing away something important. I lifted my head, looked at him in the darkness. His expression was gentle, concerned, the perfect mask of a caring husband. But beneath it I could see the operative, the man searching for evidence, the Blackwood enforcer who'd married me with an agenda. That's sweet, but there's nothing important. Just paper. I kissed him softly. Though if you really want to be helpful, you could carry the boxes to storage tomorrow. They're heavy. Of course. He pulled me closer, buried his face in my hair. Anything for you. I closed my eyes and wondered how many lies we could both sustain before something broke. The next morning, Cassandra and I moved the final transfers. The last of my father's blood money disappeared into accounts so deeply layered that even federal investigators would struggle to trace them. By noon, the original 20 accounts Harrison had used were completely empty. By evening, $8 million existed only in places I controlled under names that couldn't be connected to me. I sat in a library in Queens, staring at the screen showing zero balances across every one of my father's accounts, and I felt something like victory. The Blackwood family had nothing now. No leverage, no claim, no way to get their money back through me because I'd moved it beyond their reach. But victory tasted bitter, because taking the money didn't solve my real problem. I was still married to a man who'd lied to me for 4 years, still living with someone who might be ordered to hurt me if his father decided I was no longer useful. Still in danger every single day I stayed in this marriage. My phone buzzed. Nathaniel, dinner at Carmichael's tonight, 8 p.m. Want to celebrate. Celebrate what? 4 years. We met at that charity gala 4 years ago today. I want to take you back there, remember how it started? My breath caught. 4 years ago, the night he'd first seen me in a red dress, first looked at me like I was beautiful, first made me believe that maybe I wasn't meant to be alone forever after my father's death. The night that had seemed like fate, but had actually been a carefully orchestrated surveillance operation. I'd loved that I typed back and hated how much I meant it. Carmichael's was the restaurant inside the hotel where the charity gala had been held. Expensive, elegant, the kind of place where Manhattan's elite went to see and be seen. I wore the same red dress I'd worn that first night, pulled from the back of my closet where it had hung for years. The fabric still fit perfectly, still made my skin glow, still transformed me from the practical accountant into something that made men turn their heads. Nathaniel was waiting in the lobby when I arrived. His expression when he saw me was everything I remembered from that first night: desire, admiration, something that looked devastatingly like genuine love. He crossed the space between us, cupped my face in his hands, and kissed me with an intensity that made my knees weak. "You're breathtaking," his voice rough with emotion, "just like the first time I saw you." "You remember what I was wearing?" "I remember everything about that night. The way you tried to hide behind glasses and a conservative hairstyle. The way the wine spilled on your dress and you looked so mortified. The way you took off those glasses in the bathroom and I saw your eyes for the first time." He brushed his thumb across my cheekbone. "I remember thinking you were the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, and I remember knowing I was about to do something unforgivable." The honesty in his voice caught me off guard. "Unforgivable. Making you fall for me under false pretenses." His eyes held mine, serious and pained. "Starting something that should never have started. Lying to you from the very first words out of my mouth." I pulled back, slightly studied his face. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I can't keep pretending anymore. Because 4 years of lies is 4 years too many. Because I love you, Evangeline, and that love is the only real thing in this entire mess." My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The confession I'd been waiting for, the moment when Nathaniel would tell me everything without knowing I already knew. The moment when I'd have to decide how to react, what to reveal, how much of my own knowledge to expose. But before I could respond, a woman's voice cut through the lobby. "Nathaniel Blackwood, I heard you were in town." We both turned. The woman approaching was stunning in the way that came from expensive maintenance, perfectly styled blonde hair, designer dress that probably cost more than my car diamonds that caught the light with every movement. She was maybe 30, with the kind of confidence that came from never having been told no. Nathaniel's body went rigid beside me. Vivian Ashford," the woman said, extending her hand to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And you must be the wife." How charming. I shook her hand, felt the deliberate strength in her grip, the subtle test of dominance. "Evangeline, I don't believe we've met." "No, we haven't. I've been away for so long." She turned her attention back to Nathaniel. 3 years in California. But I'm back now, permanently. Father wanted me closer to home, closer to the business." "I didn't realize you were returning." Nathaniel's voice had gone carefully neutral. "It was rather sudden, but I'm sure we'll be seeing much more of each other now." Her smile sharpened. "Our families have always been so close after all." Something cold settled in my stomach. The way she looked at Nathaniel, the familiarity in her tone, the possessiveness in every word. "How do you two know each other?" I kept my voice light, curious, hiding the calculation underneath. "Oh, didn't Nathaniel tell you?" Vivian's eyebrows lifted in mock surprise. "We were engaged. 5 years ago, before he met you. It was quite the society event, all the families were thrilled. But then his father called it off, said the alliance wasn't strategic anymore." She paused, let the words sink in. "Strange how these things work out, isn't it? You meet Nathaniel right after our engagement ends, almost like it was planned." The implication hung in the air like poison. Nathaniel had been engaged to this woman. Their families had arranged it, and then suddenly the engagement was broken and Nathaniel had appeared in my life instead. Because Maxwell Blackwood had ordered him to marry me instead, to search for my father's money, to abandon whatever alliance the Ashford family represented in favor of recovering $8 million. Ancient history. Nathaniel said, his hand finding the small of my back. "Vivian and I were never right for each other." "Weren't we?" She tilted her head, studied him with eyes that held too much knowledge. I remember quite a bit of right. But perhaps your memory is different now. Her gaze flicked to me. New marriages have a way of rewriting history. It was good seeing you, Vivian, but we have dinner reservations. Nathaniel's voice had gone hard dismissive. Of course. Don't let me keep you. But she leaned in, kissed Nathaniel's cheek with deliberate intimacy. I'll call you. We should catch up properly. So much to discuss now that I'm back. She walked away, her heels clicking against the marble floor, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and unspoken threats. I waited until we were seated in the restaurant, until the waiter had taken our drink orders and disappeared before I spoke. You were engaged to her. It wasn't real. It was business. Our fathers arranging alliances. But you didn't tell me about her. Because she wasn't important. Because that engagement was over before I ever met you. He reached across the table, took my hand. Evangeline, look at me. I met his eyes, saw the desperation there. Whatever Vivian implied, whatever she suggested, it's not true. Yes, our families had arranged an engagement. Yes, my father called it off. But that had nothing to do with you. I didn't even know who you were when that engagement ended. Lie. The word echoed in my mind, because I knew the truth now. Knew that Maxwell had called off the Ashford engagement specifically to free Nathaniel to pursue me, to marry Harrison Beaumont's daughter, to get close enough to search for $8 million. Everything Vivian had suggested was absolutely true, but I couldn't say that, couldn't reveal what I knew. So I squeezed Nathaniel's hand and smiled like I believed him. I trust you. The relief on his face was genuine. Thank you. But later, when he excused himself to take a call from his father, I pulled out my phone and texted Cassandra. Need background on Vivian Ashford. Everything you can find. Her response. Already on it. Saw her Instagram. She posted about running into you two. I looked up Vivian's social media while Nathaniel spoke to Maxwell in low tones near the bar. Her feed was exactly what I expected: wealth, privilege, carefully curated beauty. But scrolling back through years of posts, I found what I was looking for. Photos of her and Nathaniel, dated 5 years ago. Young and glamorous at society events, polo matches, yacht parties. Her hand on his arm, his smile in her direction. The kind of pictures that told a story of intimacy, of familiarity, of two people who'd been more than just an arranged engagement. And then abruptly those photos stopped. 5 years ago, right around the time my father died, right before Nathaniel appeared at that charity gala in a perfectly tailored tuxedo and looked at me like I was something precious. I locked my phone as Nathaniel returned to the table. Everything okay? I asked. Just my father checking in. You know how he is. But tension radiated from his shoulders, his jaw tight with stress. What did he want? Nothing important. Business. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Let's not talk about my father tonight. Tonight is about us, about celebrating 4 years of the best thing that's ever happened to me. He lifted his wine glass. I lifted mine. We toasted to a marriage built on deception, surrounded by lies, teetering on the edge of destruction. And I smiled through all of it because that's what survival required. Over the next week, Vivian Ashford appeared everywhere. At the gallery opening Nathaniel took me to, at the fundraiser for children's hospitals, at the private dinner hosted by one of Maxwell's business associates. Each time she was polished and poised, her greetings friendly on the surface but carrying undercurrents of possession. She touched Nathaniel too much, let her hand linger on his arm, stood too close when they spoke, made inside references to shared memories I wasn't part of. And through it all, Nathaniel maintained careful distance, professional courtesy, the behavior of a man who wanted nothing to do with his former fiancée. But I watched the way she looked at him, saw the determination in her eyes, recognized the calculation of a woman who'd decided to take back what she considered hers. She's making a play for him, Cassandra said when I met her for coffee. Classic strategy. Show up everywhere, remind him of what they had, make herself indispensable to his social circle. She can have him. The words came out harsher than I intended. Cassandra raised an eyebrow. Can she? Because from where I'm sitting, you're still married to the man, still living with him, still playing the devoted wife. Because I'm still in danger. As long as Maxwell thinks I might know where the money is, I can't just walk away. But you moved the money. It's gone. They'll never find it. They don't know that yet. I stirred my coffee, watching the cream swirl into dark patterns. And even when they figure it out, Maxwell Blackwood doesn't strike me as someone who accepts defeat gracefully. I need leverage. Real leverage. Something that protects me if this all falls apart. Like what? Like evidence of everything the Blackwood family has done. Every crime, every murder, every illegal transaction. Enough to bring down their entire operation if something happens to me. Cassandra leaned back, studied me with new eyes. You're not the same woman I had coffee with 3 months ago. That woman was naive. She thought her marriage was real and her father was a good man. I met her gaze. This woman knows better. This woman is playing a very dangerous game. This woman is trying to stay alive. I started documenting everything. Conversations Nathaniel had when he thought I was asleep. Names mentioned in phone calls. Addresses written on notepads. Financial documents left in his study. I photographed everything, uploaded it all to encrypted cloud storage Cassandra had set up, built a comprehensive record of Blackwood family operations. And every night I lay beside Nathaniel and listened to him confess more to Thad, heard him express growing frustration about the search for money he couldn't find, heard his father's increasing impatience, heard the pressure mounting from every direction. Maxwell's giving me 2 weeks, Nathaniel said into the phone one night. 2 weeks to produce results, or he's taking matters into his own hands. My blood ran cold at those words. Taking matters into his own hands meant coming after me directly. What are you going to tell him? Thad asked. The truth. That I've searched everywhere. That Evangeline doesn't know anything. That the money is gone. He won't accept that. Then I don't know what he expects me to do. Nathaniel's voice cracked with frustration. I can't manufacture evidence that doesn't exist. I can't force Evangeline to reveal information she doesn't have. And I sure as hell won't let my father hurt her to get answers she can't give. So, you're choosing her. Finally. Definitively. Silence stretched for a long moment. Then Nathaniel spoke, his voice quiet but certain. Yes, I'm choosing her, even if it means losing everything else. Something in my chest tightened at those words. He meant it. Whatever else was true, whatever lies he'd told, his love for me now was genuine. He was willing to betray his father, abandon his family, sacrifice everything he'd built, all for a woman he'd been ordered to deceive. But was that enough? Could love built on a foundation of lies ever become something real? Could I ever trust a man who'd married me as an assignment, even if he'd fallen for me along the way? I didn't have answers. Didn't know what I wanted anymore beyond survival. The next morning, Nathaniel told me he needed to spend the day at his father's estate in the Hamptons, business meetings that couldn't be postponed. I'll be back by dinner, he promised, kissing me at the door. I love you. I love you too. The automatic response worn smooth by years of repetition. After he left, I called Cassandra. He's meeting with Maxwell today. This is it. The moment when he either tells his father he's found nothing, or he chooses the family over me. I pressed my forehead against the cool window glass. And if he does that, I need to be ready to run. Your go bag is ready. Passport, cash, new identity documents. I can have you on a plane to anywhere in the country within 3 hours. Not yet. I need to know what Nathaniel chooses first. I took a breath. Because there's still a chance he means what he says, that he'll really choose me, and if he does, then what? You forgive him. Forget 4 years of lies. Build a life with someone who married you under false pretenses. I don't know. And that was the truth. But I need to know if he's worth the risk. That afternoon, Vivian Ashford called me. Her voice through the phone was smooth, friendly, the tone of women making social plans. Evangeline, darling, I was hoping we could meet for drinks, just us girls. I feel like we got off on the wrong foot. Every instinct screamed trap. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Please, I insist. There are things you should know about Nathaniel, about his family, about what you've married into. Her voice dropped lower, more serious. Things that might save your life. I met her at a bar in Soho, deliberately public, deliberately crowded. She was waiting in a corner booth, 2 martinis already on the table. You came. She smiled, gestured to the seat across from her. I wasn't sure you would. You said you had information. I didn't touch the drink. Straight to business. I like that. Vivian leaned back, studied me with eyes that missed nothing. You're smarter than Nathaniel gives you credit for, smarter than Maxwell thinks, which is precisely why you're in so much danger. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that Nathaniel was ordered to marry you, that your entire relationship is a surveillance operation, that Maxwell Blackwood believes your father stole $8 million and that you know where it is. She paused, watched my face for reaction. But you already know all that, don't you? My heart hammered, but I kept my expression neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Please, I've been watching you for weeks, watching the way you perform for Nathaniel, the way you smile and nod and play the loving wife. But there's something in your eyes, something calculating that tells me you're not the naive accountant everyone thinks you are. She leaned forward. So let's stop pretending. You know. I know. The question is what we're going to do about it. I met her gaze, made a split-second decision. What do you want, Vivian? The same thing you want. Freedom from the Blackwood family, safety, a way out. Her smile turned sharp. See, Maxwell called off my engagement to Nathaniel to pursue his vendetta against your father, broke an alliance between our families that had been generations in the making, humiliated me publicly, and for what money that may not even exist anymore. So this is revenge. This is justice. Maxwell destroyed my future for his greed. Now I'm going to destroy his legacy. She pushed a folder across the table. That's everything I know about Blackwood operations. Names, dates, accounts, crimes. Combined with whatever you've been collecting, it should be enough to bring the entire family down. I didn't touch the folder. Why would you give this to me? Because you're the perfect weapon. You have access Nathaniel doesn't know about. You have motivation I understand completely. And you have nothing to lose. Her eyes glittered. Maxwell took everything from both of us. Let's take everything from him. And Nathaniel, collateral damage. She said it without emotion. He made his choice when he married you under orders, when he spent 4 years lying to your face, when he put his father's vendetta over any real relationship we might have had. He doesn't deserve your protection. I stared at the folder, at the offer of alliance from a woman who had every reason to hate me. A woman who wanted Nathaniel back, who wanted revenge on the family that had humiliated her, who was offering me exactly what I needed to guarantee my safety. But taking it meant accepting that Nathaniel was beyond redemption, that our marriage was truly over, that love wasn't enough to overcome the lies we'd built our life on. I need time to think about this. You don't have time. Maxwell gave Nathaniel 2 weeks. One of those weeks is already gone. Vivian stood, left the folder on the table. Read it. Decide if you want to survive this or become another casualty of the Blackwood family's greed. Call me when you're ready to fight back. She walked away, leaving me alone with her offer and the growing certainty that I was running out of options. I took the folder home, hid it with all my other evidence. That night when Nathaniel returned from the Hamptons, his face was drawn with stress. "How was your father?" I asked as he poured himself scotch with shaking hands. Impatient, angry, demanding results I don't have. He downed the drink in one swallow. He's threatening to take direct action if I don't produce the money within the next week. What does that mean? It means he wants to question you himself, bring you to the estate, have his people go through your life with more invasive methods than I've been using. His hands clenched around the glass. He thinks you're playing me, that you know more than you're letting on, that the innocent act is a performance. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so dangerous. "So what did you tell him?" "I told him no. I told him you don't know anything. I told him that after 4 years of searching, if there was something to find, I would have found it." He set down the glass, turned to face me. "And I told him that I'm done. Done lying to you. Done searching. Done choosing his vendetta over my wife." My breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I choose you, Evangeline, over my father, over the family, over everything I was raised to be." He crossed the space between us, took my hands in his. "I'm saying I want out of this life, out of the Blackwood organization, and I want us to disappear somewhere they can never find us. Start over, build something real." Every word I'd been waiting to hear, every promise I'd hoped he'd make. And now that he was saying them, all I could think about was Vivian's folder, the evidence I'd collected, the reality that Maxwell Blackwood didn't accept defection. "Your father will never let you go. Then we make ourselves too dangerous to come after. We gather enough evidence to destroy him if he tries anything. We build a dead man's switch. If anything happens to us, everything goes to the FBI." The exact strategy I'd already been implementing. The exact plan I'd made without him. "You've thought about this." "I've thought about nothing else for months." His hands tightened on mine. "I love you. Really love you. And yes, I know this started as a lie. I know I married you under orders. I know I've spent 4 years betraying your trust. But somewhere along the way the assignment became real. You became real. This became the only thing in my life that matters." I searched his face, looking for deception, for calculation, for any sign that this was another manipulation. But all I saw was a man who looked terrified and desperate and completely sincere. "When did it become real?" I asked quietly. "Second month. We were at that cafe near your office, the one you love, with the terrible coffee and amazing pastries. You were laughing at something, I can't even remember what, and you had sugar on your lip. And I reached over to brush it away, and you smiled at me like I'd hung the moon." His voice roughened with emotion. "And I thought, I'm going to destroy this woman. I'm going to make her love me, and then I'm going to break her heart when she finds out the truth. And I wanted to tell you everything right then, wanted to confess and beg forgiveness and start over honestly. But I didn't. I kept lying. And every day after that, the lie got harder to maintain because the love got more real." Tears burned my eyes, because I remembered that day, remembered that moment, remembered thinking that maybe finally I'd found someone who saw me not as Harrison Beaumont's daughter or a woman to be pursued for her inheritance, but as myself. And it had all been a lie, except it hadn't. Not entirely. Not in the end. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I whispered. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to prove that what I feel now is real, that I'll choose you over everything, that I'll protect you from my father, from the family, from anyone who tries to hurt you." He cupped my face in his hands. "Give me a chance to be the man you deserve instead of the one who deceived you." I closed my eyes, felt his forehead rest against mine, felt the warmth of his breath on my skin, felt the pull of 4 years together, real moments mixed with manufactured ones, love grown from poisoned soil but somehow blooming anyway. "I need time." "I'll give you whatever you need. But Evangeline, we don't have much time. My father is planning something, and I'm afraid if we don't move soon, neither of us will get out of this alive." That night I couldn't sleep. Lay awake beside Nathaniel, his arm around me, his breathing deep and even. Proof he trusted me enough to sleep deeply. Proof he didn't know I knew everything. But I couldn't keep up the deception much longer. Couldn't keep playing sleeping wife while planning my escape. Couldn't keep pretending I didn't know our marriage was built on surveillance. Something had to break. Someone had to make the first move. I thought about Vivian's folder hidden in my office. Thought about all the evidence I'd collected. Thought about Cassandra's go-bag ready for me to run. Thought about $8 million spread across accounts only I could access. I had everything I needed to destroy the Blackwood family and disappear forever. Everything except certainty about what Nathaniel really deserved. In the morning I made a decision. I waited until Nathaniel left for a meeting. Then I pulled out the folder Vivian had given me, spread the contents across my desk beside my own evidence. Combined, it was damning. Names of politicians on Blackwood payroll, details of money laundering operations, proof of murders covered up by corrupt police, a blueprint of an entire criminal empire spanning 3 decades. I photographed everything, uploaded it to the cloud storage alongside my own documentation, created a comprehensive file that could take down not just Maxwell Blackwood, but everyone connected to his organization. Then I called Vivian. "I'm in, but I need something from you first." "Name it." "Protection. If this goes wrong, if Maxwell comes after me, I need somewhere to hide, somewhere the Blackwood family can't reach." "Done. My family has safe houses across the country. You'll have access to all of them." "And Nathaniel?" A pause. "What about him? If he really chooses me, if he really walks away from his father, he gets protection too. You're still defending him." Disbelief colored her voice. "I'm keeping my options open." I took a breath. "He says he loves me. Says he'll choose me over Maxwell. I need to know if that's true before I completely destroy him. And if it's not, then he deserves whatever happens." Vivian laughed sharp and approving. "You're stronger than I thought." "All right, we'll give your husband his chance to prove himself. But Evangeline, if he betrays you again, if he chooses Maxwell over you, I want you to know something." "What?" "I'll help you destroy him myself." The call came 3 days later. Nathaniel's phone rang at 2 in the morning, pulling us both from sleep. I kept my eyes closed, my breathing steady while he answered in the darkness. "Yes, Father." Maxwell's voice came through sharp and commanding, even through the phone speaker. I couldn't make out words, but the tone was unmistakable. Orders being given, compliance expected. "I understand. Tomorrow morning. I'll bring her." My blood turned to ice. "Bring her. Bring me where?" "To what?" Nathaniel ended the call, sat on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. I heard him breathing hard, heard the quiet sound that might have been a curse or a prayer. Then he stood dressed in the darkness and left the bedroom. I waited 5 minutes before following. Found him in his study staring at his phone like it was a weapon pointed at his head. "Nate." I made my voice soft, sleepy, concerned. "What's wrong?" He looked up and the devastation on his face was real. "My father wants to meet you, tomorrow, at the estate." Why, we've had dinner with him before. Not like this, not for this. He stood cross to me, took my hands in his. "Evangeline, I need you to trust me. I need you to do exactly what I say tomorrow, no matter how strange it seems. Can you do that?" "You're scaring me." "I'm terrified." The admission came raw. "My father thinks you're hiding something, thinks you know where your father's money is, and tomorrow he's going to try to force you to tell him." I let fear show on my face. It wasn't difficult. "Force me how?" "I don't know, but I won't let him hurt you. I swear on everything I have, I will protect you." His hands tightened on mine. "Even if it means going against my father, even if it means losing everything." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that tomorrow when we go to that estate, you need to be ready to run. I'll create a distraction, give you time to get to the car. There's an envelope in the glove box with cash and a burner phone. Drive to the address programmed in the GPS. Cassandra will meet you there." My heart stuttered. He'd been planning this, had coordinated with Cassandra without my knowledge, had set up an escape route. "You talked to Cass?" 2 days ago. I told her everything. About the assignment, about the lies, about how much danger you're in. She didn't want to trust me, but I convinced her I'm serious about protecting you." He pulled me close. "I love you. And I should have told you the truth months ago, years ago, from the very beginning. But I'm telling you now. Your father stole from my family. I was ordered to marry you to find the money. And I fell in love with you instead. And now I'm choosing you over them." I pulled back, looked at him with wide eyes. "You married me because your father told you to." The pain that crossed his face was absolute. "Yes. Our entire relationship is a lie. It started as one. But it's not anymore. What I feel for you is the most real thing in my life." He cupped my face. "And I know you have no reason to believe me. No reason to trust me. But tomorrow when everything falls apart, I need you to run. Get somewhere safe. Let me handle my father. Handle him how? However I have to. I searched his eyes, saw the resolution there. Saw a man prepared to commit violence, maybe murder to protect me. Saw someone willing to destroy his entire world for a woman he'd lied to for 4 years. And I made my choice. I already know, I whispered. His expression froze. What? I know. About the assignment. About the money. About everything. I stepped back from his hands. I've known for 3 months. The color drained from his face. How? I stopped taking the sleeping pills. I heard you on the phone with Thad. Heard you confess everything. I watched him process this, watched realization crash over him like cold water. And then I found my father's USB drive. Found the money. Moved it somewhere you'll never find it. You moved it. His voice came hollow. You've had it this whole time. Every dollar. Spread across accounts your family will never access. Protected by enough legal structures that even if they found them, they couldn't touch them. I kept my voice steady, emotionless. And I documented everything. Every crime the Blackwood family has committed. Every murder, every bribe, every illegal operation. All of it ready to go to the FBI if anything happens to me. He sank into his chair like his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. You've been playing me. All this time you've been playing me. I've been surviving. There's a difference. How much? His eyes met mine, and the betrayal there cut deeper than I expected. How much of the last 3 months was real? When you smiled at me, when you let me hold you, when you said you loved me, was any of that true? I wanted to lie, wanted to hurt him the way he'd hurt me. But something in his broken expression pulled the truth out. I don't know. Some of it was performance. Some of it was real. I can't separate them anymore. I wrapped my arms around myself. You made me love you as part of an assignment. I loved you while planning to destroy you if necessary. We're both guilty of using each other. I deserve that. He scrubbed his hands over his face. I deserve all of it. But Evangeline, tomorrow my father is going to try to hurt you. And if you won't run, if you won't let me protect you, then we need another plan. I have one. Meet with your father. Tell him I don't have the money. Tell him you've searched and found nothing. He won't believe me. Then I'll tell him myself. I straightened my spine, lifted my chin. I'll go to that estate. I'll face Maxwell Blackwood, and I'll make it very clear that threatening me is the last mistake he'll ever make. You can't. You don't understand what he's capable of. I understand perfectly. That's why I've built insurance. I pulled out my phone, showed him the cloud storage interface. Every piece of evidence I have is set to automatically release to federal authorities, major news outlets, and every politician on your family's payroll if I don't check in every 12 hours. You want to call that a dead man's switch, feel free. I call it staying alive. He stared at the screen, and something like admiration flickered across his devastated expression. You're brilliant and terrifying, and I have never loved you more than I do right now. Don't. I locked the phone. Don't tell me you love me while we're both preparing for war. This isn't war. War implies equal sides. He stood, moved toward me slowly like approaching a wounded animal. This is me trying to fix the worst mistake of my life. This is me begging you to let me prove I'm not the man who deceived you, that I'm the man who will burn down everything I was raised to be if it means keeping you safe. Pretty words. Let's see if your actions match them tomorrow. I left him standing in his study and went back to bed alone. Morning came too fast. I dressed carefully, deliberately. Black dress, simple jewelry, hair pulled back, armor made of fabric and composure. Nathaniel watched me from the doorway, his face haggard from a sleepless night. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do, because running just delays the inevitable. Maxwell needs to understand I'm not a victim he can threaten. I checked my reflection one final time, and you need to decide finally and completely which side you're on. The drive to the Hamptons estate took 2 hours. Nathaniel drove in silence, his hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. I watched the landscape pass, memorizing the route, noting the exits, preparing for every possibility. The Blackwood estate sprawled across 10 acres of waterfront property. Old money architecture, perfectly maintained grounds, the kind of place that looked like a museum dedicated to American aristocracy. Beautiful on the surface, rotting underneath. Maxwell waited in his study, a room designed to intimidate. Dark wood paneling, expensive art furniture that cost more than most people's houses. He sat behind a desk the size of a small car, his silver hair perfectly styled, his suit immaculate. "Evangeline, how good of you to join us." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Please sit." I sat in the leather chair across from him, kept my posture straight, my expression neutral. Nathaniel stood behind me, a presence at my back. "I apologize for the short notice." Maxwell continued, his voice smooth and cultured. "But there are matters we need to discuss. Family matters." I wasn't aware I was family. We've had so few interactions. "You married my son. That makes you family, though I'm beginning to question the wisdom of that union." "Then we have something in common. I'm questioning it myself." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "Bold words. Honest ones. Your son married me under false pretenses. Spent 4 years searching my life for money he claimed my father stole. I'd say that gives me the right to question everything." Nathaniel's hand landed on my shoulder, a warning or support, I couldn't tell which. Maxwell leaned back, studied me with new interest. "So you know." "Interesting. And how long have you known?" "Long enough." "Long enough to move the money, I assume. Long enough to hide it somewhere we can't access it. Long enough to build yourself protection." He steepled his fingers. "You're smarter than I gave you credit for. I thought you were a naive accountant playing at running her father's business. Turns out you're Harrison Beaumont's daughter in more ways than one. If that's a compliment, I don't want it. It's a fact. Your father was brilliant at deception, stole from us for a decade before we caught on. You've managed 3 months of playing my son while planning your own endgame. Impressive genetics." "What do you want, Maxwell?" "The same thing I've always wanted. My money back. $8 million your father stole over 10 years of operations." "Then you're going to be disappointed. That money is gone." "Gone?" His eyes hardened. "Money doesn't just disappear. It does when it's been moved through enough accounts and legal structures that tracing it would take years and resources you don't have. It does when trying to recover it would expose your entire operation to federal investigation." I met his gaze without flinching. "It's gone, Maxwell. Accept it and move on." "I don't accept losses." "Then you're about to learn." I leaned forward. "Because if anything happens to me, if I have an accident or disappear or suffer any unfortunate incident, every piece of evidence I've collected about your family's operations goes public. Names, dates, accounts, crimes, all of it. Enough to send you and everyone you've ever worked with to prison for the rest of your lives." Silence filled the room. Maxwell's expression hadn't changed, but something cold and deadly had entered his eyes. "You're threatening me, in my own home." "I'm establishing boundaries. There's a difference." "Father." Nathaniel's voice came strained. "She's telling the truth. I've seen the evidence. It's comprehensive and damning. And it's protected by dead man switches that will trigger if anything happens to her. Threatening her accomplishes nothing except guaranteeing your own destruction." Maxwell's gaze shifted to his son. "You're defending her. After she's deceived you, stolen from us, built weapons against your own family, you're still defending her." "I'm choosing her." Nathaniel moved around the chair, stood beside me. "Over you. Over the family. Over everything you built on blood and lies. I'm choosing the woman I love instead of the organization that ordered me to destroy her." "Then you're no longer my son." The words fell like an executioner's blade. Nathaniel's face went white, but he didn't waver. "If that's what it takes to do the right thing, I'll accept it." "The right thing?" Maxwell's laugh was bitter. "The right thing would have been completing your assignment, finding the money, recovering what was stolen. Instead, you fell in love with your target and betrayed 4 generations of Blackwood legacy. Your legacy is built on suffering. On extortion and murder and destroying anyone who gets in your way. Nathaniel's voice strengthened. I don't want it. I don't want any part of it anymore. I want out. There is no out. You were born into this family. You will die in this family. No. The single word rang with finality. I'll die a free man, with the woman I love, far away from you and everything you represent. Maxwell stood slowly, his movements controlled despite the rage radiating from him. You think you can just walk away? You think I'll let you abandon everything? Take my daughter-in-law and her stolen money and live happily ever after? I think you'll accept it because the alternative destroys you. I stood to faced him across the desk. You have a choice, Maxwell. Let us go peacefully accept the loss of money that frankly you stole yourselves in the first place and continue your operations without us. Or come after us, trigger the dead man's switch and watch your empire crumble in federal investigations and media exposure. You're bluffing. Try me. I pulled out my phone, showed him the timer counting down. 6 hours until the next check-in. All I have to do is nothing. Miss one check-in and everything goes public. Your entire world ends. Is $8 million and your pride worth that? His jaw clenched. Behind him the door opened and Thaddeus Morrison stepped inside, followed by 2 men I didn't recognize. Large men. Armed men. The kind of men who solved problems with violence. Or, Maxwell continued, his voice dropping to something dangerous, I keep you here until you give me access to those accounts, however long that takes, whatever methods are necessary. Nathaniel moved in front of me. You're not touching her. You're not in a position to make demands, boy. You're outnumbered, outgunned, and standing between me and what I want. Maxwell nodded to the armed men. Take them both. Separate rooms. We'll start with the wife. Everything happened fast. Nathaniel lunged at his father, got intercepted by one of the guards. A fist connected with his jaw sent him sprawling. The other guard grabbed my arm, started pulling me toward the door. I didn't fight, didn't scream, just reached into my pocket and pressed send on the pre-written text message already loaded on my phone. To Cassandra, trigger the switch, and to Vivian now. The guard dragged me out into the hallway. I let myself be pulled along, my mind racing through possibilities, through backup plans, through every scenario I'd prepared for. They took me to a room on the second floor, windowless, soundproofed, the kind of room that had seen terrible things. Mr. Blackwood will be with you shortly, the guard said, shoving me inside. Might want to think about cooperating. Save yourself a lot of pain. The door locked behind him. I was alone in the silence. I pulled out my phone. No signal as expected, but the messages had sent before they brought me upstairs. Cassandra knew to trigger the evidence release. Vivian knew to move on whatever plan she'd been holding in reserve. Now I just had to survive long enough for those plans to work. 20 minutes passed. Then the door opened and Maxwell walked in alone this time. You're calmer than I expected. Panicking won't help. Neither will your dead man's switch. I have people monitoring it. The moment any data starts transferring, they'll shut it down. Then they'll fail. I built redundancies. Multiple servers, multiple triggers, multiple fail-safes. You can't stop all of them. I met his eyes. And even if you could, Cassandra knows everything. She has copies. You'd have to kill her too, which triggers her own dead man's switch. And Vivian Ashford has evidence of her own. You'd have to eliminate her entire family. How many people are you willing to murder to keep your secrets? Maxwell. His expression flickered. Vivian. What does she have to do with this? Everything. You humiliated her family when you broke off her engagement to Nathaniel. She's been planning revenge ever since, and I gave her the tools to accomplish it. I smiled without warmth. You underestimated both of us. Thought we were just women to be manipulated and discarded. Turns out we're more dangerous than you imagined. You're bluffing. Vivian wouldn't. His phone rang. He answered it, his face going progressively paler with each second. I see. Yes. Handle it. He ended the call, turned back to me with something like respect in his eyes. You really did it. Federal agents are executing search warrants at 3 of my properties right now. The evidence was released 5 minutes ago. I told you, dead man's switch. But how you've been in this room for the last 20 minutes. Because the trigger wasn't me missing a check-in, it was me sending a specific message, which I did before your guard brought me upstairs. I let that sink in. You were already finished the moment you tried to threaten me. This conversation is just cleanup. The door burst open. Thaddeus appeared out of breath. Boss, we need to move. The feds are on their way here. Someone tipped them off about Eva being held against her will. Maxwell's eyes narrowed. Who? Your son. Thad's voice carried something that might have been admiration. Nate called them from his cell phone before we took it. Said his father was kidnapping his wife. They're treating it as a hostage situation. He called the FBI on me. Maxwell seemed genuinely shocked. His own father. He chose his wife, just like he said he would. I straightened my dress. Now you have a decision to make, Maxwell. Let me walk out of here peacefully and deal with the federal investigation however you want, or keep me here, add kidnapping to your charges, and make everything exponentially worse. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he stepped aside. Get out, both of you. I never want to see either of you again. That, I said, walking past him toward the door, is the first reasonable thing you've said all day. I found Nathaniel in the hallway, his face bruised, blood at his lip but standing. When he saw me, relief flooded his features. You're okay. I'm fine. We need to leave before the FBI gets here. He grabbed my hand, and we ran. Through the house, past confused staff, out to the car. Nathaniel drove like he was racing death, speeding down the long driveway as sirens wailed in the distance behind us. We made it to the highway before either of us spoke. You triggered it. His voice shook. You actually released all the evidence. I said I would. You could have died. If my father had decided to kill you before the FBI arrived, if he'd decided you were too dangerous to let live. But he didn't, because I made myself more valuable alive than dead. I looked at him, saw the fear still etched on his face. And because you called the FBI on your own father, betrayed your family, chose me like you said you would. I told you I would choose you. He reached over, took my hand. I meant it. We drove in silence for a while, both processing what had just happened. The life we'd known was over. The Blackwood family would either fall under federal investigation or find a way to survive. But either way, Nathaniel was no longer part of it. We were free. Where do we go now? He asked. Cassandra has a safe house in Montana. Small town, middle of nowhere, the kind of place where nobody asks questions. I squeezed his hand. We disappear, build something new, figure out who we are when we're not lying to each other. And the money, gone, donated to organizations that help victims of organized crime. Every dollar my father stole returned to people who've been hurt by families like yours. I met his eyes. I don't want blood money. I want a clean start. You gave away $8 million. I kept enough for us to live on, modestly, honestly. The rest went where it could do some good. I paused. Is that a problem? No. His voice was thick with emotion. No, it's perfect. It's exactly what someone who actually has a conscience would do. Unlike me. You have a conscience. That's why you're here instead of back there with Maxwell. We drove through the night, leaving New York behind. Left the penthouse, the life of luxury, the Blackwood name and everything it represented. By morning, we were in Pennsylvania. By evening, we crossed into Ohio. Cassandra met us at the Montana safe house 3 days later. She hugged me hard, then turned to Nathaniel with cold eyes. If you hurt her again, if you lie to her again, if you give me any reason to think you're not completely committed to making this right, I will destroy you myself. Are we clear? Crystal. He met her gaze without flinching. I know I don't deserve her. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to earn both. See that you do. Cassandra handed me a folder. New identities, documentation, everything you need to start over. The FBI is dismantling the Blackwood organization as we speak. Maxwell's been arrested. So have Thad and 15 others. The empire is crumbling. And Vivian gave testimony in exchange for immunity. Turns out she had evidence of her own family's crimes too. Burned them all to the ground. Cassandra shook her head. Hell hath no fury indeed. After she left, Nathaniel and I stood in the small house that would be our home. It was nothing like the penthouse. Modest furniture, dated kitchen windows that looked out on mountains instead of skyscrapers. This is going to be very different, he said quietly. Yes. I don't know how to be anything other than a Blackwood. Then learn. We both have to learn who we are when we're not playing roles. I turned to face him. I need time, Nate. Time to trust you again. Time to figure out if what we have is real or just trauma bonding. Time to see if love built on lies can become something honest. How much time? However long it takes. I took his hand. But I'm willing to try. Because despite everything, despite the deception and the manipulation and the 4 years of performance, some part of what we built was real. And I want to see if we can find that part again, build on it, make something that actually lasts. He pulled me close, rested his forehead against mine. I'll wait as long as you need. I'll prove myself every day. I'll be patient and honest and everything I should have been from the beginning. Good. Because I'm done being the woman people underestimate. Done being the naive wife. Done playing Sleeping Beauty while the world burns around me. I looked up at him. If we do this, if we build something real, it's going to be as equals, as partners, with complete honesty. Complete honesty, he echoed. Starting now. The months that followed were harder than either of us expected. Learning to live without luxury, without power, without the armor of the Blackwood name. Nathaniel worked construction jobs, came home exhausted and covered in dust. I did remote bookkeeping for small businesses, built a modest client base through referrals. We fought. God, we fought. About trust, about the past, about whether forgiveness was even possible. Some nights I slept in the guest room, unable to bear the proximity to someone who'd deceived me so thoroughly. Other nights he held me while I cried through nightmares about Maxwell and locked rooms and everything that could have gone wrong. But we also healed. Slowly. Painfully. One honest conversation at a time. 6 months after arriving in Montana, we stood in a small chapel in the mountains. Just us, Cassandra, and a local judge. No elaborate ceremony, no society guests, no performance. Nathaniel wore a simple suit purchased from a department store. I wore a red dress, not the expensive gown from the gala, but a simpler version I'd found at a consignment shop. A callback to the beginning, but remade into something new. The judge asked if we took each other as partners in this life. Nathaniel spoke first, his voice steady but emotional. I married you once under orders, built a life on deception, nearly destroyed both of us with my lies. This time I'm choosing you freely, honestly, with full knowledge of what that means and what it costs. I choose you, Evangeline. Every day for the rest of my life, I choose you. Tears burned my eyes as I responded. I loved you when I thought you were someone else. I hated you when I learned the truth. I've been afraid of you and angry at you and devastated by you. But through all of that, I never stopped loving the man you could be, the man you're becoming. So I choose you too, the real you, not the performance, not the lie, the complicated, flawed, trying to be better version. I choose that man. We exchanged rings, simple bands purchased with money we'd earned through honest work. Nothing from the Blackwood empire, nothing from my father's theft, clean and new and ours. When we kissed, it felt like beginning, like something fragile and precious taking its first breath. That night in the home we'd built together, Nathaniel pulled me close. Do you think we'll ever stop paying for our mistakes? I don't think that's how life works. We'll always carry what we've done, what was done to us. The question is whether we let it define us or if we grow beyond it. I traced the line of his jaw, familiar after so many years, but somehow new. We survived, Nate. We're broken and scarred and permanently changed, but we survived. That counts for something. It counts for everything. He kissed my forehead. I love you, the real you. The woman who was strong enough to play me while I thought I was playing her. The woman who built weapons out of my family's crimes and wielded them without hesitation. The woman who chose survival over sentiment until she didn't anymore. I love you too. The man who betrayed his father for me, who called the FBI on his own family, who walked away from everything he'd ever known because staying meant hurting me. I smiled against his shoulder. We're a mess, you know that. The best kind of mess. 18 months later, I woke before dawn with my hand pressed against my abdomen, feeling the flutter of movement that had become familiar over the past few weeks. The pregnancy test had shown positive 2 months ago. We'd waited to tell anyone, wanting to keep this precious secret between us a little longer. I slipped out of bed quietly, padded to the kitchen to make coffee. Through the window, Montana's mountains stood silhouetted against the lightening sky. In the distance, I could see the small bookstore we'd purchased 6 months ago, a legitimate business built on legitimate money, a future that belonged to us. Nathaniel appeared in the doorway, his hair messy from sleep, wearing the worn jeans and flannel shirt that had replaced expensive suits. Couldn't sleep. Baby's active this morning. I turned, let him see the happiness on my face. I think she knows it's a beautiful day. He crossed to me, placed his hand over mine on my stomach. Already decided on gender. Call it intuition. I leaned back against him. What should we name her? He was quiet for a long moment, his chin resting on my shoulder. What about Catherine, after your mother? My throat tightened. My mother, Catherine Beaumont, who died when I was 12, who I'd mourned alongside my father. Middle name, Hope. The word came, middle name, Hope. The word came without thinking, because that's what she represents. Hope that we can be better than our parents, that we can build something good from broken foundations, that love and truth and choice matter more than legacy. Catherine Hope. He turned me around, cupped my face in his hands. It's perfect. She's going to be perfect. And terrifying if she inherits anything from you. Or stubborn if she gets anything from you. I smiled through tears. We're really doing this. Building a family. A real family based on honesty and choice. We're really doing this. He kissed me softly. And I'm going to be the father. Mine never was. Present. Honest. Teaching our daughter that love means choosing someone every day, not using them for what they can give you. That evening we sat on our small porch watching the sun paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. The bookstore would open tomorrow, our first full week of business. The baby would arrive in 4 months. Federal prosecutors in New York were still building cases against what remained of the Blackwood organization, though that world felt distant now, like something from another life. Do you ever regret it? Nathaniel asked quietly. Everything we went through, everything we lost. I considered the question honestly, thought about the penthouse and the parties and the life of wealth and privilege, thought about the naive woman I'd been, the harder woman I'd become, the balanced person I was learning to be. No, because being broken taught me I was strong enough to heal. Being deceived taught me to trust my instincts. Losing everything showed me what actually mattered. I squeezed his hand. We paid a terrible price for this peace, but it was worth it. You're worth it, he corrected. You've always been worth it. I just had to learn that the hard way. We both did. I rested my head on his shoulder. But we learned. That's what matters. We didn't let the lies win. We didn't let fear keep us trapped. We chose truth even when it was terrifying. We chose each other even when it would have been easier to walk away. Stars began appearing in the darkening sky one by one, claiming their space in the vastness above us. Inside the house, everything we needed waited, modest, but ours, honest and real. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new choices, new moments of building a life that was truly ours. But tonight, we sat in the quiet and held each other close. Two people who'd learned that the hardest battles are the ones we fight with ourselves, and the greatest victories are the ones that nobody sees. Nathaniel's hand covered mine on my stomach, feeling for the baby's movement. When she kicked, both of us smiled. "She's strong," he murmured. "She'll have to be, with parents like us." I turned my head, kissed him softly. "But she'll also know she's loved, chosen, wanted, not for what she can give us or who she can become for someone else's purposes, just for being herself." "The way we choose each other." "The way we choose each other," I echoed. And in the silence between heartbeats, in the space between breathing, we sat together under the emerging stars. Two people who'd survived deception and danger and the destruction of everything they thought they knew. Two people who'd learned that love built on truth was worth any price and that freedom tasted sweeter after captivity. The mountains stood eternal around us, the sky deepened to indigo, and somewhere in the growing darkness the future waited, uncertain and challenging and beautiful in its unknowability. We chose it together, the way we would every day for the rest of our lives.